And here we go. We have liftoff.
Propulsion continues to be nominal.
R68 chamber pressure looks good.
Following up. Roger, roger, planet.
Water towers fly! Yes!
Tango down to nominal.
Flight down to AST off. Bring in ST off. It's orange! 145!
Oh my god! Oh my god!
Decollage. Put that in the big bag,
343 unfolds to go.
Indeed.
We rise together, back to the moon and beyond.
The methane would be igniting the flare, correct?
Yikes. You dead? Sure. We don't need any more of these.
Hello and welcome. You are looking at a Falcon 9 rocket sitting on Slick 40 at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station, ready to launch the Bluebird Block 1 satellites to low Earth orbit. This is basically a direct-to-cell Starlink-style competitor to Starlink. And yeah, we're going to wait and see for this to launch. Hopefully, we get a launch here. It should be happening around the time of Polaris's EVA, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the Polaris capsule, Dragon Resilience, is about to fly over Florida, like right now. I don't think we'll have any views of it, but pretty nifty. We've got some people in space. We do have a separate stream that is going to go live for the Polaris Dawn EVA, so yeah, I hope you have enough screens handy to watch everything exciting that's happening tonight. I'm Jack Beyer for NSF. If you guys have any questions, at NASA Spaceflight in chat, we'll see your questions pop up in some software that we're running in the background. We've got Max and D not on comms just yet. They are rushing to get set up in the field, so thanks to them for that. And we have Carson Phillips operating the stream in the background. Thank you, Carson. Or maybe it's Kevin. I don't know. It's somebody. Thank you, whoever's operating the stream. Also, on commentary, we have the illustrious Mr. Trevor Sesnick. Trevor, how you doing, bud?
I'm good. You know, every time you introduce me, I think I learn a new word, so that's a good thing.
I may be stupid, but I do have a good vocabulary, so it's like a good way to sort of camouflage your stupidity. I highly recommend it. Cool.
Yeah.
So keep asking your questions there in chat. We will shortly have D and Max on stream. But yeah, as I said, Trevor, these are sort of it's a sort of a competitor to Starlink Direct to Cell. It's a company that's trying to do broadband from space direct to cell phones. That's what I mean when I say DTC. Is that correct?
Yeah, so it's AST SpaceMobile, but they're kind of taking a very different approach compared to SpaceX, right? SpaceX, with their Starlink direct-to-cell constellation, is kind of in the really low orbit and launching a very large number of payloads. And these Bluebird satellites are going to be in a higher orbit and are substantially larger. So there's a stack, or there's a photo of the payload stack prior to or during encapsulation, and you can kind of see the 5 of them being launched on this mission.
It's a really interesting payload adapter. Sorry to interrupt you there, but yeah, 5 satellites. It's like 4 on the bottom, 1 on top.
Yeah, it is very weird looking. And what you can kind of tell from looking at them, like you may be like, where's the dish? Where's, like, what am I looking at? They just look like, weird cylinders. And that's because they actually have this enormous deployable phased array antenna. I believe it's on the order of like 10 meters in diameter, that they, once it's on orbit, in the correct orbit, they start slowly expanding it. And then that will allow them to directly communicate with your cell phone, which is quite cool. And like Jack was saying, will be like DTC, where it's not going to need any additional hardware. It's just going to be connect to it for emergency calls. I assume at the start it'll be emergency, and then hopefully longer term moving over to pure data, like FaceTime calls or whatever fun stuff we want to do over it.
Right. I use a variety of technologies to stay safe when I am out of range of cell signal, which is surprisingly frequent in this modern day and age. I have a Land Rover. I like to go off-roading. I like to go to the middle of nowhere. Oftentimes, no cell signal. Now you can just have a Starlink Mini, but up until very recently, that wasn't a thing. You have to carry a full-size Starlink dish if you want connectivity. Or I have a fancy little, I don't know, gadget called a InReach, which
Oh, I
uses
love the inReach.
the Iridium network. Yeah, it's saved me many times actually, um, and I'm a big fan of it. But now with various companies like I don't know Apple and T-Mobile vying to offer direct to cell capability so that you can message or what have you, um, even when you don't have cell signal, it's a big deal. Like I pay something like 30-40 bucks a month for my InReach, and it's nice because you can turn it off every month. This is meant to be an ad. We're not sponsored. I just want to make that clear. It's just like I find direct to cell capabilities very fascinating because again, I pay like 40 bucks a month, 30 bucks a month on uh, you know, this service. And all it is very rudimentary, like 160 character SMS style text messaging. So as time goes on and we advance further into our glorious space future, I'm all about having more capabilities, and it doesn't have to just be Starlink direct to cell. It can be other things like this Bluebird constellation. Trevor, this is the first of several planned Bluebird satellite launches, right? I think they're launching 25. Do you know how many? Like, was it? It's a smallish constellation, right?
Yeah, I'm actually not entirely sure how many satellites they're preparing for. I think I've seen like several numbers floating around, but they are in the there are quite a few satellites, but not like thousands of or hundreds or thousands of
Right.
satellites. So, um, right, each satellite, I believe, mass is about 1,500 kilograms. So, it is a decent bit larger than Starlink. And like I mentioned, since these are exclusively designed to communicate with your cell phone, unlike Starlink DTC, which is communicating with your cell phone on top of the normal Starlink dish.
Right.
um, they're able to be a little bit more efficient when it comes to that sense. Unfortunately, right, since this is not a Starlink or transporter mission, we don't have any TLEs for this mission. TLEs are two-line element sets. They kind of tell you what the initial orbit the rocket is going to drop the satellites into. So we don't exactly know how much work the satellite will do to get to its orbit versus the um, rocket. But yeah, this is going to be a much smaller constellation.
Talking while muted. Sorry about that. So yeah, I don't know. We're rapidly approaching the point where maybe I just cancel my InReach subscription. Thing is, though,
I have an InReach 2, right? As a climber, it's really nice to have. And
right?
I always like having both because I feel like that thing will last way longer and
Yes.
is a bit more rugged. But yeah, I definitely understand the not wanting to pay the fee.
Yeah, and just once again, this is not meant to be like an endorsement or an advertisement of InReach, but it, this is a subject that is sort of close to my heart. And I will say in favor of the InReach, Trevor, as I'm sure you know, they have an SOS button on them,
Hmm.
and through their, I don't even know what you call it. Through one of their options to their plan is you can pay a little bit extra a month and get like up to $1 million of recovery insurance. So like, let's say you break your leg and you press the SOS button and they have to send a helicopter to come rescue you. You don't necessarily have to foot the bill for the helicopter because you have like this weird emergency insurance through it. So probably won't be canceling anytime soon, but I do feel like we are getting to the point where the InReach is obsolete. Like you can see that future like coming down the pipeline, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's also, in my opinion, just really nice that it offers this redundancy where, right,
Dissimilar
since they
redundancy.
yeah, dissimilar redundancy, and since they're using different constellations, and it could be even like almost 3x redundancy if you consider Garmin's Iridium, I believe, and then Apple's plan, I think, is it with Global Star
I think you're
for
right. Yeah.
their um iPhone 14 and later phones can communicate with satellites and for rescue and sending iMessage and whatnot. And then Starlink, and then now like if AST comes online, like that's already 4 options, which is just awesome. And it's what's also really cool is I know SpaceX announced or I think Elon posted on X recently saying that Starlink DTC, the direct to cell, they're going to open up to everyone for emergency phone calls. So
Pretty
even if you're
amazing.
not paying SpaceX, you can
Yep.
still use their service if you need to be rescued or something, which is just awesome and frankly the way that it absolutely should be.
Yeah, absolutely. Sort of similar thing happened when Apple announced messaging via satellite, to where, you know, uh, we're getting into the weeds here, but you know what? I guess tonight's stream is all about talking about things we're particularly fond of. I obviously am a fan of Apple products. So are you, Trevor. So I feel like we can bring this up. Um, Apple makes a lot of money these days off of services, like service revenue, meaning subscriptions, whether that's iCloud storage or Apple Fitness Plus or Apple TV or any number of things where they figure out a way to charge you a little bit every month. And when they first announced SOS messaging via satellite, a lot of times they'll bake these new features into the price of a new phone. And it was like, okay, well, iPhone 15 gets the satellite communication, but what happens next year? Are they going to start charging like $5 a month for it? And sure enough, no, they didn't. It's just opening it up to all their phones. It's like one of those things that every human in a time of need should be able to have connectivity, whether or not you're paying for a service or not. You never want to have a story where it's like somebody could have gotten help and, had something tragic happen to them, but they weren't paying $5 a month, so they couldn't access the
Yeah.
network. So both Starlink and Apple, you know, making the world a little bit safer, which is nifty. And I look forward to more companies sort of following suit. So
And from
yeah,
a
Rokwa in chat
pure
says 127 hours later. Yeah, good reference.
I don't get the reference, but I
The
also have
movie,
to
the
bring
the
up
the documentary about the hiker who got stuck 127
oh,
hours, had to like cut off
I
his.
haven't I've not seen that. That actually sounds like something I'd be very interested in.
Yeah, you should watch it.
Okay, I will. But what I was going to bring up is just how crazy it is to me. Like maybe this is just me being ignorant. Maybe this is I'm dumb. Well, I am dumb. But it is crazy to me that you have something in orbit traveling 17,500 miles per hour that is powerful enough to communicate with some small telephone that you're using on the ground of Earth.
Right.
Like the amount of signal processing that goes into that and the amount of error correction and redundancy in the signal and just everything, like it blows my mind that is possible. So to all of those engineers, like hats off to you. It is crazy.
Yeah, I can only imagine they're using some big honking antennas, uh, maybe phased array antennas. I'm not sure. I would love to know more about how they accomplish that feat of engineering, because it truly is, right? Like a cell phone from orbit, like that radio has to be, I don't know if we're talking about it in terms of like visual light, has to be like a little tiny LED flashlight on your phone. And the satellite has to be able to pick that up and then transmit to it. It's really quite remarkable. So neat. I'm curious how these. Can we go, Carson? Can we go back to uh, the in cap photos? Like I'm looking at these cylinders about to be inside the fairing in their little payload adapter, and I'm not seeing anything that's like super obviously like a folded antenna. Do you see anything like that? Like it's yeah. I'm very curious about the mechanism and how these work, and they're just neat. They're neat satellites.
Yeah, I'm not sure how they're gonna deploy either. Um, there is a photo of it deployed. If we can, I can post it in the. Let me actually make sure that this is. Yeah,
Yeah,
this is
do that.
from.
I'm gonna thank some people for their support, because we can't do these streams without you guys. NSF firing on all cylinders tonight with this and with the Polaris Dawn EVA. So, uh, we can't do this stuff without your guys' support. And to that end, Jode, thank you for becoming a PadRat member. Starship Watcher Vader EJ becoming a PadRat member. Thank you for that. Carson, somebody named Carson Phillips. I don't know who that is. They must not have a cool nickname. Thank you for becoming a Capcom member, Carson. You you mad lad. Don't you already have access to all the things? Eric, thank you for becoming a Red Team member. Thomas Smith becoming upgrading to launch director. Thomas, thank you so much. Investing 2020s, becoming a Padrat member. Ken, launch director. Wow, thank you. Curtis, Padrat member, and Roddy Mom 12. I wonder if Roddy Mom 12 has a Rottweiler. Thank you for becoming a Red Team member. And Jim Cabot gifting a Red Team membership. Hooray! Because of your support, we can keep doing this stuff. Any luck, Trevor?
Yeah, I have them in the back channel. See if I'm allowed to show them. If Carson is so inclined.
Chat, if you have any good ideas for a nickname for Carson, post
There
them
we
in
go.
chat.
So
Hey,
this
there
is
you go.
kind of the top of the satellite that we didn't see from that other view, where it has
Interesting.
this like cube thing, and then there's another photo of the entire thing deployed. So how it gets from this like cube cylindrical shaped thing to the image we're about to show, I certainly have no idea. Because that's that's a
Oh,
pretty
wow.
enormous that's a
Wow.
pretty enormous phased array antenna.
That is huge. Neat. Thank you for finding those, Trevor.
Of course.
And there just goes to show you, what does it take to accomplish cellular broadband connectivity from orbit? A giant phased array antenna. Holy cow. Talk about cutting edge. So about
Yeah,
38 minutes. Go ahead, please.
no, I was just gonna say I would love to see like a Starlink DTC satellite properly deployed on the ground like that. Because
Right.
I don't think it definitely doesn't have like a massive phased array antenna like that. So they must have some other way of being able to communicate with your phone. Like I suspect, like I was saying earlier, right, the AST constellation I believe is going to be on the order of a couple hundred satellites, whereas right, Starlink is a couple I mean, they've launched over 7,000,
Wow.
and they're in a lower orbit, right? Starlink's about 550 kilometers, and AST is about 750, if I remember correctly. So I imagine the fact that you're a little bit lower and you have to worry about a smaller portion of the Earth does allow for you to get away with a substantially smaller phased array antenna on
Right.
the Starlink DTC satellites. But I also don't know what I'm talking about. All of
No,
this
that makes
signal
perfect
processing
sense.
is so beyond me. It's very cool stuff though.
I don't think it's beyond. Don't neg yourself, Trevor. I'll do that for you. Yeah, you know what I would really like to see? I would like to see sort of a render or an infographic that has uh, a Mentor or Advanced Orion satellite, like would be launched on a Delta IV Heavy, which has like a 300-foot dish. It's a SpySat, compared to a Starlink DTC, compared to one of these Bluebird satellites. I would love to see just sort of a two-scale comparison between all three, because Mentor has one of the, if not the biggest dishes, again, estimated to be about 300 foot, 100 meters in diameter, that I'm aware of. But you know what? That picture we just showed was pretty darn big. Maybe even bigger. I'm not sure. I'm a bad judge of scale, but either way, it's just fascinating, the sort of technology that goes into this stuff. So we're almost at 36 minutes to go. Trevor, how close are we to fueling start? We're pretty close, right?
Yeah, so at this point, SpaceX should have started the go no go poll for fuel load. And if they've decided to pull go, that fueling will start in just under a minute. However, I don't think we have brought it up yet. The 45th's latest weather forecast has the weather being at about a 70% chance of violation for today's window. So it's 30% go, but SpaceX does have a 4-hour launch window. So if they don't start fueling in the next 40 seconds, they can keep pushing it on. However, assuming that they have pulled go, let's all cross our fingers for that.
Please.
RP1 will begin being loaded on both stages, and liquid oxygen load will begin being loaded on the first stage. So we'll have to wait and see if that started. Generally, it's a little bit of a race between us being able to get visual confirmation looking at the booster, looking at Frostline and eventing, and SpaceX posting on X about fueling having began. So we'll be keeping an eye out for both, though, as always.
Indeed. Hopefully, SpaceX X's a post. What do you even supposed to say anymore?
I don't know.
Hopefully SpaceX Zeets. I can't believe I said that. Hopefully SpaceX Zeets something, and we get some confirmation, or we see some condensation coming from the base of the booster here shortly. And as a reminder, we do have D and Max both out in the field, hopefully to get us some really amazing views of tonight launch. So this is one of our, I believe, one of our robotic cameras. But stand by, and we will have a sick shot from the team in the field there. They are setting up now, so thanks to them for doing so. In the meantime, Trevor, Ken is asking, do we know why this launch slipped from the earlier listed September 9th launch date?
Yeah, I think it's probably just schedule. Right, SpaceX just launched the. Actually, I guess the last launch from this pad was like September 5th, so about a week ago. Yeah, my guess is it's probably just scheduling, and SpaceX was super busy with the Polaris Dawn mission, which obviously took priority at the company. They wanted to make sure that they had as much engineering talent looking at that, analyzing everything, looking at everything for the 100th time. So I suspect it was a combination of just launch scheduling, probably a little bit of weather, and then Polaris Dawn.
Yep. Yeah, that makes sense. And just a quick correction, I suppose. This is not a robot shot. This is a shot D set up before they and Max had to run to set up at their alternate locations. So good work, D. We have it's not really a question, it's more of a statement from Shazbert Toddbot. Interesting name. They say, watching here in the New Orleans metro area with zero power using backup batteries to keep powered. Keep up the good work. Holy cow, you must be getting hit by Hurricane Francine right now, so I hope your power isn't out for too long. Either way, just goes to show the sort of situation that might benefit from cellular connectivity. Like, what if the whole entire cell network terrestrially goes down? That would be bad. Hope you stay safe, Shazbert. Don't drive through water, etc.
Is it just me, or is that a frost line?
I do sort of feel like I was seeing a little bit of a vapor there, so hopefully that's a good sign. Also, sort of corollary to the last question, LC says, the DTC sounds like it could be really beneficial in emergencies like big earthquakes when cell circuits in an area are down or slammed with call attempts. 100%.
Yes, 100%.
Yet another reason why technology like this is important. I mean, people so often are like, oh, why do we waste money on going to space? It's just billionaires playing with toys and they just want to escape Earth. Like, you hear all those sorts of arguments, and it's like, no. The very best thing that space flight can do is improve our life here on Earth. I mean, there's a variety of amazing things. It's exploration, it's science, it's innovation. I mean, look at what Polaris Dawn is about to do with their EVA here very shortly. But it's also about improving life on Earth, and that's really important.
I have been so disappointed by how little attention I've seen for Polaris Dawn outside of like space news areas. Like, so few of my friends who aren't into spaceflight know about it. And whenever I tell them about it, they're like, holy cow, I can't believe this is happening. So
Right.
I hope it continues to get more coverage, especially, as when in a couple of hours they do the first commercial EVA, which is just kind of crazy to say.
Yeah, I'm super excited for it. I've been following along with the Polaris Twitter account, sort of devouring every bit of information they've been posting. It's been really delightful, and I can't wait to see how the rest of the mission plays out. Hopefully, Trevor, as the EVA happens and we get some presumably sick imagery from the event, that might allow sort of the message there to go farther and wider. Hopefully, I mean, it's basically a big part of our job to get
Mhm.
people hyped up about this stuff, and whether it's from us or mainstream news or friends telling friends about stuff, like, hey, chat, if you have any friends that might be interested in this sort of thing, maybe let them know. Like, be that annoying friend that's like, hey, do you know this thing that's happening? Because what are we at NSF if not that? But the more people that are excited about this stuff, the better. So that's why we're excited about it. You know what else I'm excited about, Trevor?
The frost line?
Well, yeah. No, I was gonna say the feed that Max is setting up right now. So hopefully we get Max's camera live here shortly. I'd be very Oh! Speak of the devil. That is a wonderful shot. Thank you, Max. Norman Dollar, interesting last name, with a $20 super chat. Thanks, bud. They say, my first launch in person, sitting on the beach with my fingers crossed. Great job, always. Great job, guys. Always watch y'all. Thank you so much, Norman. That really means a lot. That's very generous of you. Hopefully, here in just about 28 minutes, you will get to see your first in-person launch, and hopefully it's a good one. Once we get D and Max on comms, I'd like to get a sit rep and sort of get their vibe on what the weather's like. If you're there in person, what might Norman see tonight? Clouds, that sort of thing. But also, a really cool thing about tonight's launch. I didn't mention this yet. I'm a failure. It's an RTLS, right, Trevor?
Yes, that is correct. So, it's been a while since we've seen an RTLS from the Cape. At least it feels like a while. But it will be returning to landing zone 1. And the booster, I also don't think we mentioned, is B1078, which is flying for its 13th time. B1078 has supported, let's see, it first supported Crew 6, and then it supported O3B Empower 3 and 4, and then 9 Starlink missions and USSF 124. So it's a fairly new booster in the grand scheme of things. But awesome to it's definitely cool that we're saying a booster flying for its 13th time is pretty new. But yeah, it'll be recovered on LZ1. And then the fairing halves, as always, will also be attempted. They'll attempt to recover them. Those will be recovered downrange by Go Beyond as Doug continues to undergo maintenance. Sorry, not Go Beyond. Go Cosmos. I misspoke there. And Jack is
Jack
probably
talking while
talking while
muted?
muted.
Yeah, nothing I said was worthwhile, so it doesn't really matter. But yes, I was talking while muted. Once again, Max,
Jack!
how you doing, bud?
Well, this rather busy morning has started off rather chaotically for all of us over here on the Cape Canaveral Space Force Station. But we are here now. We have our cameras set up, if not almost completely set up on D's side. We are getting ready to go. We are currently stationed at the ITL Causeway, about 3.3 or 3.2 miles from the launch pad. So it's a very good view, despite the transporter erector seeming to block the rocket from this angle. But trust me, once liftoff occurs, the views are going to be well worth it. And I can see that we must be do prop load now. Seeing
Indeed.
some
I see some
vapors from the
condensation
TE.
there. Fantastic. Hopefully things will progress smoothly here. 70% chance of weather violation last we heard, so question mark?
I mean, we've seen Falcon 9 fly with less than 10% probability of favorable weather. So
yeah,
I wouldn't rule anything out yet.
they're quite good at threading the needle. And hence, why they're actually fueling the rocket. If they didn't think they could pull it off, they probably wouldn't go through the expense and
Let's
time.
not forget, just 2 days ago, they had a launch with 70 or 60%
Right.
probability of violation.
Though it
And
did
thankfully
improve through the
that.
window. Speaking of,
Yeah.
I have a question about the window. There is a what is it, a 4-hour window, something like that?
Correct.
But as they have started fueling, that sort of means that it's this or nothing for this launch attempt, right?
That is correct. At this point, now that they're into prop load, they can't really recycle. This is actually a stat that I've been wanting to go back and find, and of when the last time SpaceX was recycled a launch attempt on the same day of a Falcon rocket. But with Block 5, it's basically not a capability that they have. They technically do if there's a long enough window and blah, blah, blah. But it's not something they do commonly. So, yes, at this point, a scrub or any delay today would mean pushing back 24 hours to tomorrow's window, which I believe is at the same time. And I believe weather gets slightly better.
Well, hopefully it's the non-issue and they get this rocket off the ground here in about 24 minutes. We have a question here from Dean Watts asking, I wonder if that team, I believe they mean the team that was standing around the unfolded phased array antenna we were looking at earlier. I wonder if that team is capable of folding a fitted sheet.
No,
That's hilarious.
That's impossible.
Yeah, nobody is capable of folding a fitted sheet. If you know someone that can fold a fitted sheet, or if you can, you're lying.
You're lying.
Oh, good deal. B1062 is asking, any insight on drone ship location weather? B1078 has hopefully learned from my mistakes. Here's the thing. It's an RTLS, as we were just talking about. So, there you go. LC is asking, is Starlink going to have their own cell plan? They haven't announced anything along those lines, but it certainly wouldn't shock me if 5-10 years from now, instead of the little AT&T or T-Mobile or what have you logo in the top bar of your phone, you have a little SpaceX logo or something like that. What do you think, Trevor?
Yeah, I think Elon has posted on X saying in the short term, so for the first year of Starlink DTC, it'll be exclusive to T-Mobile. I imagine that's because, actually, I don't know why that is. I would imagine T-Mobile probably had some patents or something that SpaceX wanted to take advantage of, so the
Possible.
partnership was valuable to both sides. But that's total speculation. And then I believe Elon mentioned after that, then they'll open up to all of the other carriers. And then once it's out to all of the other carriers, I don't know, maybe at some point once they have enough bandwidth up there, they would have their own cell service. But right, this DTC really isn't going to be a replacement for ground-based infrastructure, just like how Starlink itself is not a replacement for like fiber. Right, Starlink and DTC are really going to be useful for areas with very low population density where it doesn't make financial sense to have big cell towers, to have fiber lines, to have all of that.
Right.
So, I mean, I wouldn't say it's impossible, but I also don't think it's likely. Like, there's many advantages to having stuff on the ground.
Couldn't agree more. Ooh, this is also a very nice view. And don't get confused. You're not looking at 39A. This is still Slick 40, as evidenced by the 4 towers. They're just a fancy crew tower and access arm now. This camera view, I believe, is from D. D, are you there?
I sure am.
Awesome. Well, you're, like Trevor and I, a little bit of a Apple wonk. So if you have any thoughts in general, feel free to spill them. But we're typing in our back channel a little bit about the frequency that they're using to pull off this service. What's the deal with that?
Yeah, so basically in the US, like the FCC allocates frequencies to different cell phone providers. And in order for SpaceX to jump in on the cell phone connectivity with existing bands, they needed a partnership there to be able to use some of those frequencies that have been allocated to these companies in the US. And so for the US, they're using the frequencies that are T-Mobile's. And so they have that partnership there. And they have a number of partnerships with different carriers around the world
to use their bands in those specific countries.
Neat. All right, well, Max and D. Oh, look, it's the 20-minute vent. Trevor, what is going on here? This is a good thing, right?
Yes, this is exactly what we want to see at T minus 20 minutes and 20 seconds. So, right at the start, when you asked me about the fuel load, I had mentioned that our load stages 1 and 2, but liquid oxygen load had just started on stage 1. And the reason for this is the stage 2 liquid oxygen load does not start until T minus 16 minutes. And the reason for this is SpaceX wants to load that liquid oxygen on stage 2 as late as possible, since they super chill it to about negative 200 minus 210 degrees centigrade. They want to give the liquid oxygen as little time as possible for it to warm up. Since the cooler it is, the denser it is, and the denser it is, the more they're able to fit in the tanks, and also the higher performance the engines will be. So because of this, they don't start loading until T minus 16 minutes, and that T minus 20 minute and 20 second vent is them preparing that line for fuel load. So they're going to cool it down, make sure that it's not at ambient temperatures when they begin that fuel load here in just a couple of minutes.
Thank you for that explanation, Trevor. Really beautiful T minus 20-minute vent today. The way the wind is going, sort of blowing the vapor through the various towers there.
Yeah,
Quite
we're
intriguing.
we're used to seeing that vapor sort of going through the tower, but with this perspective out here a lot closer, it is. I mean, I love this view. It's gorgeous.
Nice. We have a really cool comment here from Matt saying Orion Mentor is 10 times the diameter of Bluebird. Carson, I hate to put you on the spot, buddy. Can we show that? Can we show that shot of the unfolded phased array antenna? 10 times the diameter. Man, the military industrial complex. It can do quite some interesting things. Anyways, thank you, Matt, for that comment there. That's quite fascinating. Speaking of fascinating, here's an interesting question. I'm going to go around the horn and ask everybody, D, Max, and Trevor. We'll start with Trevor. Trevor, Khalid is asking, after the latest events and delays, how many launches do you expect SpaceX to reach this year? Trevor, you've been working on some fun, I don't even know what to call it, software, web page. You've made a cool tool. So I'm asking you first. What's the number you're guessing for?
Yeah, so basically the question that I've been wanting to answer for a while is everyone, they'll look at, right, I believe today's launch is like SpaceX's 91st launch of 2024, and they'll be like, oh, the year is what, a little over 75% of the way over, or a little under 75%, like 70% over. So, what's 91 over 0.7? Right, they would say predicting about 130 launches this year. But what I don't like about that method is it doesn't take into account that SpaceX improves throughout the year. So I have a website where it shows all the turnaround times, and you can plug in, what line of best fit type you want, and it'll actually project the number of launches. So this year I'm predicting like about on the order of 135 launches, possibly closer to 130 if the weather continues to be not so good. But it's definitely been a rough year for them. So unfortunately, I think the 148 launch goal is completely out of the window at this point. But they're still on track to reach about 130, 135, which is extremely impressive.
Yeah, I love that you're saying it's been pretty rough, and yet they're still gonna hit in the 130s. That's quite remarkable. Max, what do you think? How many launches this year for SpaceX?
Well, at the beginning of the year, I had predicted, due to a number of factors into this, I figured it was going to be around 125, maybe plus or minus 2. And there are, especially around this time of year, The biggest factor to take into consideration is the weather, because we of course are currently in peak hurricane season, and there are 4 separate systems out in the Atlantic Ocean right now, 3 of which are may be in prime position to form into proper hurricanes and come right into Florida's neighborhood, which could cause some complications if things go the wrong way, I guess you could say. But also, SpaceX has had a couple of anomalies this year, both with booster landing, and of course, also we all know what happened with the upper stage from Vandenberg not too long ago. So there are a ton of factors at play here, but all in all, I want to say around 125 plus or minus 2.
All right. Good explanation. D, what do you think?
You're asking me a numbers question?
Don't Alex me. Don't you Alex me right now. Come on. It's T minus 14 minutes, 26 seconds to go. You can't do that.
Yeah, in terms of numbers, I would definitely fall back to Trevor and all of his math. But yeah, Max brought up the great points about the hurricane season, and that is going to impact it. Also, I mean, we've got Europa Clipper coming up, so pad reconfiguration at 39A, that'll impact it. Hopefully, towards the end of the year, they'll be able to pick up their pace a little bit. I say that like it's a negative, as if they have a bad pace this year. They have been launching so much this year, not quite as much as they wanted to, but it is hard to control the uncontrollable. So, yeah, I can't give a number there.
Yeah, I think Dee brought up a really good point that I kind of glossed over, although it was taken into account with the number that I gave. Of they have a lot of pads, or they have a lot of time in the rest of the year where pads are going to be down waiting for a launch. Right, Polaris Dawn just had 39A for a couple of weeks, and then now they have Europa Clipper, like Dee was mentioning, and then soon 40 is going to begin conversions to Crew 9. And then shortly after that, they have to go from Crew 9 to it's the Hura something mission that's launching from 40 and has an interplanetary window.
Careful,
So
Adrian.
it's between-
Adrian might fight you if you don't say the name right. Anyways, continue.
I don't even remember what the name is, to be honest. But yeah, it's going to be a little bit of a rough next month or so when it comes to number of launches, just because they have a number of really high important missions that they need to get off the ground, and will delay other launches.
Good deal. Well, that was a really good question and some really good answers. About 12 minutes to go. Trevor, timeline-wise, what are we expecting to see next? Or at least what's next up in the timeline?
Yeah, so next up will be a series of events. First, we will begin seeing a chill down of the 9 Merlin D engines at T minus 7 minutes. So that's when they run a little bit of liquid oxygen through the turbo pumps of all 9 of those engines to chill them down. Just like they don't want the lines to be warm when they start flowing liquid oxygen through them, they don't want the engines to be warm when they start that as well. They chill them down, and they do the same for the second stage, but that doesn't start until a bit later. And then at T minus 5 minutes, we'll see that strong back retract by about 1.8 degrees. That's just the initial retraction that it does, with the full retraction to well past 45 degrees away, occurring after liftoff has been detected by the ground side. After that, the big events will be kind of in the T minus 3 to T minus 2 minutes timeline, when fueling and liquid oxygen load will start concluding on both stages. Before at T minus 1 minute, the tanks will begin pressurization for flight, and then the Falcon will enter what is known as startup, which is when the onboard computers take control of the countdown from the ground-based computers. And then at that point, at T minus 45 seconds, hopefully we'll get that go from the launch director, and hopefully weather remains green and the range remains green for engine ignition, which begins at T minus 2.7 seconds.
Sweet. You know what else is sweet? Everybody coming out and supporting what we do. Fly Me to the Moo.
I love that name.
I was I was trying to come up with a pun. Like, what are they? Frank Sinatra? Crow? Yeah, I don't know. I got nothing. But there's something there. We got to workshop it. But either way, Fly Me to the Moon becoming, gifting a Red Team membership. Thank you for that. LC becoming a Padrat member. Bideford, what's up, Bideford? Gifting 5 Red Team memberships. Judith Ann Anderson becoming a Padrat member. And Stin. I'm just gonna go with Stin. I hope I'm not butchering your name, but thank you also for becoming a Padrat member. Again, we can't do this stuff without y'all's support, so thank you so much. Trevor, Kevin is asking how high in orbit Bluebird is going to.
Yes, this is what I was mentioning earlier. The final orbit, I believe, is about 750 kilometers circular. However, we're not sure what the initial orbit is going to be.
Yeah, and like you said, we did not get TLEs, so tricky.
We'll, of course, get post-launch TLEs, though. Jonathan McDowell and Celeste Track are always phenomenal about getting that data available for the public in an easy-to-digest way.
Good old Jonathan McDowell, the orbital police. He's got that name for a reason. JS Web Productions asking, what is the total launch count this year for Falcon 9 thus far? I believe this is SpaceX. This will be SpaceX's 91st launch of the year and 4th of the month. Am I correct, Trevor? You're the one with the website.
Yeah, that sounds right. I believe in terms of Falcon, this is Falcon 9's 87th mission of 2024, and then they had one. It must be 88th. Yeah, sorry, this is 88th Falcon 9, 89th Falcon, since they had one Falcon Heavy and then 2 Starships so far.
Good deal. About 8 minutes to go. Homer Gonzalez is asking, will Starship IFT 5, just say Starship Flight 5, you don't have to say IFT, it's fine, happen during Thanksgiving? I don't think so. But honestly, who knows? We did get that update directly from the FAA to NSF, sort of elaborating there on the late November time frame. And if you read the SpaceX statement and you read the FAA statement, there's sort of a 60-day resetting clock every time a new question is asked, and it's just a whole... I won't be surprised if Starship Flight 5 is 2025 at this point. I'm being pessimistic there, but yeah, if we're following Berger's law, anything in the last month or so of the year, spaceflight-wise, is very likely to slip to the next year. So we'll see how that goes. I hope to see Starship Flight 5 soon, but you know what? Catching a booster is complicated. And that also begs the question is like, why not just fly the same profile as Flight 4 and do some other sort of testing while you get the paperwork sorted out for a catch? But you know what? I'm not a rocket engineer. SpaceX is smarter than me.
Thankfully.
Yeah, I mean, hey.
Oh.
No, he's not wrong. He's not wrong, Max. You can't laugh and make it sound like it's worse. He's absolutely correct. I'm bad at math. I have 0 attention span. Like he's just speaking truths. We can't.
But it was still funny.
I tried to own it.
Trevor tells good jokes.
I tried to own it. Trevor doesn't even know what a joke is. Trevor's like, I know about Taylor Swift and climbing things. That's it.
And a little bit of math.
Yeah, okay, fair. And now coding.
Yeah.
Bartsy, thank you for gifting 5 Red Team memberships. Very sweet of you. If you got a gifted membership from Bartsy, be sure to thank him. All right, well, we're about T-minus 6 minutes to go. We're going to let our field team jump off comms and do camera things because we love to see the content that they are able to create. So, Max, Godspeed. We'll see you on the other side, good buddy.
Thank you, everybody. So, once again, apologies for the late join. It's been a very chaotic night so far, but hopefully these views are going to be well worth the wait. So thank you very much, and I will see y'all on the other side.
All right, fairly well. D as well, thank you so much for setting up the cameras and braving the chaos tonight. Punch Max in the arm for me.
Will do.
Go ahead, Trevor.
Sorry, Alex just gave us a cool update in the back channel. SpaceX said that this is the fairings are flying for the 8th and 18th time. So that is not a record for fairings. Fairings have flown, I believe, 22 times. But still, it's awesome to see flight or hardware being flown so often.
Yeah, I've said this before
Sorry,
on
fairings have.
streams. I'll say it
I
again
was
on stream.
confusing.
Go ahead.
I misspoke. I was confusing booster and fairing. Fairings have flown a maximum of 20 times, so this is close to the record, but still not a record.
Got it. Thank you. Yeah, fairing reuse blows my mind. I'm still astounded by it. Like, oh, we'll just let them hit the water. It's like everything in my head says that salt water kills things, including my Land Rover, which I drove through a whole lot of salt water over the last couple days, thanks to tropical storm now Hurricane Francine, which is now battering Louisiana. And hey, if you're out there and the cell networks go down, I bet you're happy that companies like AST are launching direct-to-cell capability from space. Look at that tie-in I did. Hooray. Hooray me. CS Miller says, you've been Trevored, because in chat I asked Alex how it felt to be verbed, so I guess that's only fair. 4 minutes to go. Very exciting. This is going to be a great view at liftoff.
Yeah, this view is very cool.
Trevor Avenger is asking, what are the 4 towers? There's 5 towers, though, now. There's 5.
Aren't there 6? Do you count the rocket as a tower?
I mean, I'm not going to shade anyone that counts the rocket as a tower, but no, I don't count the rocket. Maybe the TE is a tower. Speaking of, I believe retract of the Strongback is underway right now.
Yeah, that should have concluded by now. But those 4 towers are for lightning protection. As you've seen if you've watched Space Coast Live over the last few days, or really any time, Florida has a lot of pretty nasty weather in it, and that includes a lot of lightning. So they want to make sure that the lightning hits something that is not the rocket and protects the rocket. So they basically build these 4 towers, have some not wires between them that essentially creates a Faraday cage around the vehicle, protecting it. So it's all about protecting the rocket, protecting everything that's expensive, and making sure you hit some random steel bar instead.
Right. Coming up on the T-minus 2-minute vent, which we'll talk about here in a moment. Really quickly, Johan says, huh? Since when do hurricanes drop salt water? Thing is storm surge exists, and the water that came over the road here at Highway 4 and Starbase was from the ocean. Like, the tide came up really high, and then also storm surge is a thing. And yeah, it was salt water. Rip my undercarriage. Graham W. asking, what does it cost to produce a fairing? At least back around Falcon Heavy launching STP-2, which I think might have been the first recovered fairings, if I'm not mistaken. Elon said something about them being $3 million a piece, so $6 million for a pair. But it's not just about the cost of the fairings, it's also about the time it takes to produce them. So by reusing them, you can increase your cadence and save money. It's a double-edged sword there. And there we go. There is the T-minus 2-minute vent, clearing out the lines ahead of launch as we approach 1 minute to go. Trevor, what happens at T-minus 1 minute with Falcon 9?
Yeah, so those 2 events I mentioned earlier happen. The first is tank pressurization to flight pressure begins. So that's just making sure the rocket is structurally sound for when those 9 Merlin engines ignite, and that's almost 9 meganewtons of thrust. You need your tanks to be strong to handle that. And then now the vehicle should also be in startup. So the Falcon 9 has taken control of that launch countdown. And then any second now, we should be getting confirmation from the launch director that they are go for launch, and we have that confirmation.
Hooray! Excellent. All right, 30 seconds to go. Really quickly, Sausage asking, are we doing something for the spacewalk? Yes, NSF is also going to be or already is live for the spacewalk. I can't even tell anymore. There's so much going on tonight, which you'll love to see. We truly are,
We are
in a
live.
new golden age of spaceflight. And yes, we are live for the spacewalk right now as well. So, like I said at the start of the stream, I hope you have enough screens. But either way, here we go. T minus 10. Hopefully, we get to see these satellites launched into space shortly. Look for the green flash. There's ignition. And liftoff of Falcon 9 carrying the Bluebird-1 satellites into space. That's 5 satellites. Let's listen in. Man, that vapor cone was absolutely beautiful. It even did the
That-
giant vapor ring. I love when that happens.
Yeah, that was really cool in general, seeing it find that needle through the clouds
Right?
and the exhaust lighting up all the different layers, and the sound was incredible.
I never know when to start talking again because I want to let the crackle linger as long as possible, but sometimes something cool happens and I have to just unmute myself and be like, ooh. But yeah, there you go. You can see the exhaust plume from Falcon 9's 9 Merlin engines expanding as the rocket ascends into thinner and thinner atmosphere. I say that every stream, but it's a phenomenon I find really beautiful and interesting and sort of helps illustrate the rocket's position in space, well, space as in, the locations around the Earth, as it ascends into the more tenuous part of the atmosphere. Plume getting really nice and blue. There's Miko. Very shortly, we should see second engine start. But also, this is an RTLS. So the booster's coming back to land at the Cape. There's stage SEP. So hopefully we have some excellent views of that. Wow. Speaking of excellent views,
That is a cool view.
You can see at the bottom there is the second stage. Up top is the first stage doing its boost back burn. And that beautiful light show we just saw is the interaction between the plumes of the first stage and the second stage. Absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah.
So now the first stage will continue on its way back towards the Cape. Look at that!
That is so cool. Yeah, this burn is currently using 3 of those Merlin engines, so it uses 9 on the way up, 3 for the boost back, and then sometimes we'll have to wait and see. It is a single engine entry burn, and there's shutdown of that boost back burn. There's the payload stack on the second stage. Sometimes that entry burn is 1 engine, in which case the landing burn will be a 1-3-1 configuration. 1, and the landing burn is a single engine. My guess is, since this seems to be like a fairly low performance mission, they will be doing a 1-3-1 entry burn and then a single engine landing burn, since that puts a little bit less stress on the booster. But we'll have to wait and see. Both of those are coming up, the entry burn in about 2.5 minutes or so, as you can see on the bottom, and then the landing burn shortly after.
Good deal. I always love this part. It's another thing I say, like I feel like I say every launch, but just watching the telemetry, watching the second stage pile on velocity while the first stage descends and slowly scrubs off velocity. It like at times speeds up, at times slows down. And yeah, here we go. There you go. You can see it speeding up as it's reached apogee and begins falling back towards the Earth. Just so. Trevor, rockets are cool.
I agree. Rockets are quite cool.
Good deal.
They're also really hot.
Well,
Like,
yeah.
that
I mean,
engine
just
valve,
look
you
at that
wouldn't.
nozzle.
Yeah, you would not want to touch that.
You could probably cook bacon on it pretty well, though.
I think the bacon would get burned quite quickly,
You just gotta flip
which
it
is a
real
good
quick.
thing.
All right. First stage is around 100 kilometers in altitude. Second stage, 159. But really, just look at the velocity of the second stage. 10,000 kilometers an hour and rapidly rising.
And it's only like halfway there.
Coming up on entry burn of the booster here shortly. Also, I'd like to note not a stubby nozzle, which is good.
Yeah, thankfully.
I think we can all agree stubby nozzle bad.
Yeah, I know Max especially hates stubby.
Well, Max has good takes, you know? Max always has good takes about basically everything. Not only does he shoot amazing content and photos and videos and everything, but he also has good takes. He takes good photos and videos and has good takes, and he hates the stubby nozzle. So, that's why we like him. Here we go. Here's entry burn.
Florida's coast.
Nice.
Wow, that was short.
A live view of the entry. Yeah, that did.
Oh, no. Okay. Yeah, that looks like just a single engine to me.
Huh.
So if that is just a single engine, we will look at the landing burn. I predict it will be 131 based on what I saw there. So let's pay attention to that. If it is 131, you'll see the single center engine ignite and the two outer ones ignite briefly, and will kind of form a line. But there you can see landing zone in the light with the booster having a little bit of oscillation as it makes its way toward that.
Fantastic. 6 kilometers in altitude for the booster, coming through 1,200 miles an hour. Sorry, kilometers an hour. Really scrubbing off the speed there. Look at that fantastic view from the first stage as it barrels towards the Florida coast.
There are those burns.
Booms. Bingo. Fantastic. Falcon 9 V1078 has landed back at Cape Canaveral. SpaceX, as always, making it look easy.
Yeah, and that was SpaceX's 347th booster landing and 6th consecutive.
So weird. 6th consecutive. It's going to be a while before that number is commensurate with how good they are at landing boosters once again. Their one landing failure recently really threw a wrench in the works.
Within a year, it'll be
True.
impressive again.
True. And there is Seco 1, second stage, cutting off its engine. Well, that was fairly fantastic. Hooray. Do we know how long until payload deploy, Trevor?
I don't know off the top of my head.
Is there another burn of the second stage? Is that it?
No, so it's just a single burn on tonight's mission, and then I just checked SpaceX's website. The payload, it's about a 45-minute coast before they begin deploying those 5 satellites. And they deploy them about what, a minute and a half apart. It actually varies a little bit. So the mission ends at T plus 1 hour and 8 minutes, basically.
Got it. Very cool. Max, do we have you loud and clear? You there?
Hello, hello. How do I sound?
You sound great. How was that? That was some excellent camera work.
It's always so refreshing to experience a launch from the Space Force side, especially this close to Slick 40, just because the sound is so much crisper. It's hitting you that much harder. And with how the weather thankfully cleared out around launch, and we can see a bunch of stars over our heads now, and the clouds are getting thin, we pretty much had a view all the way past the boost back burn of the first stage booster. It was wonderful, and hopefully the audio and the visuals came through on our end as well. And of course, the sonic booms coming over and slapping us in the face as they normally do from this perspective as well is always a treat. But we are honestly just super grateful that Falcon 9 got off the ground on time this morning. In time, of course, for the EVA, and to prevent a further or an already very long morning getting any longer.
Right. Yeah, I mean, the visuals and audio were fantastic, Max. I mean, props to you and D, as always, delivering the goods. Really great views tonight. So I know Slick 40 can be a little bit challenging. So yeah, great work. You know what I'm also thankful for? Everyone who supports our work here at NSF. Demez, thank you for the super chat. Jerwa, what's up, Jerwa? Always love seeing your name pop up. They say stubby nozzle is the microwave bacon of aerospace. Sure, it's not the best, but it gets the job done. You know what? I'm gonna agree with you there. I agree. And Remraj, thank you for the support there as well.
Also, I will note, Alex pointed it out in the back channel, since you just asked about if there's a second burn on tonight's mission. SpaceX's website does not mention a second burn. However, if you look at the trajectory map that SpaceX shows between these live views, it certainly implies that there is a second burn. And I would probably expect a second burn on a mission like this to circularize, to raise that perigee. So probably there is a second burn, but also we don't know because there's an inconsistency. So
you gotta love little inconsistencies. All right, well, I do believe, as we've been talking about on this stream, we are already live for the Polaris Dawn EVA, which should be happening here shortly. So we're going to wrap this stream up right quick. And everyone, let's all jump over and raid the Polaris Dawn stream. I want you to go into the YouTube live chat for our Polaris Dawn stream. And I want you to say, I came from Bluebird or something like that. Or just say bacon. Or just say whatever you want. But yeah, let's go raid our own stream. Let's do it.
Everyone go spam that stream right now. Right now.
Like say raid, say Jack sent me, whatever you want to do. I want to hear Das react. That's gonna be quality. But yeah, let's wrap this up. Max, thank you so much for the stellar camera views and audio. Max, we'll get your info on screen. Everyone follow Max on Twitter. Max is an amazing human being. I love you, Max.
I love you too, Jack, and thank you very much, everyone else, for coming out very, very, very early this morning to come hang out with us and watch the launch before the big event that later on this morning.
Oh, you went a little robot, but we love you anyways.
We are already live for.
Good deal.
There we go. Yep. Robai.
Good. Did you say Robai? Either way, thank you, Max. Even if you have bad takes about the stubby nozzle. Also, D, thank you so much. I don't know if you're on comm still, but I know you shot some sick slow-mo. We're sort of closing up shop a little bit quickly today, but don't worry. We'll find maybe we can get them to show the slow-mo on the Polaris EVA stream or something.
Ooh, that would be cool. Always happy to be here. This is a great launch with some great audio.
Also, Trevor, thank you so much for being on.
Yeah, of course. It's truly an extremely exciting day that we're about to with what we're about to witness. So everyone, please go to that stream.
It's a big deal.
Get all your friends to watch it. It is it's just insane. I'm so excited.
right? It's 4 a.m. for me. It is 5 a.m. for my parents in Florida. I'm going to text them like right now and be like, hey, did you know that there's some people in space right now, private individuals, who are about to complete a spacewalk? I'm going to do that. They're going to be like, why are you awake? And then I'm going to turn on Do Not Disturb and watch the spacewalk. Also, operating the stream, thank you, Carson. We appreciate you. I'm not even going to use your delightful nickname, which I know you love. So thank you. Yeah, let's wrap this up. I'm Jack Byer for NSF. Let's all go raid the Polaris Dawn stream. Bye.
And here we go. We have liftoff.
Propulsion continues to be nominal.
R68 chamber pressure looks good.
Following up. Roger, Atlantic.
Water towers, fly! Yes! Tango down to nominal.
Flighting down to AST off. Bring in ST off. It's orange! 145! Oh my god! Oh my god! Decollage! What is it? Put that in the big bag,
343 unfolds to go.
Indeed.
We rise together back to the moon and beyond.
This methane will be igniting in the flare, correct?